I was taking a tactical stance. You're ultimately hoping that your commands will be complied with, and unfortunately they were not.
Did you give any commands to her before you shot? The Capitol Hill Police use of force policy or use of weapons policy by discharging his weapon in a careless and imprudent manner. Why is their officer, the guy who shot and eliminated a woman, being promoted to captain when he's got a history of reckless endangerment with firearms? You remember this guy, Lieutenant Michael Byrd, January 6th cop who was paraded all over the place, including in this interview with Lester Holt. He was deemed to be a hero because he's the person who took out Ashley B. And Ashley B, of course, was the woman inside the Capitol who we saw that was pulling herself through the window, and he was on the other end with his firearm. But the big story is this report that came out from Barry Loudermilk, subcommittee on the Oversight Committee, fresh out of the oven, November 20th, and it goes to the Capitol Hill Chief of Police, Chief J. Thomas Manger, the guy who came in and replaced Capitol Hill Chief of Police Stephen Sund, who was asked or forced to resign by Nancy Pelosi the day of January 6th. And Stephen Sund wrote a great book about this that exposes a huge swath of, he might say, incompetence, I would say intentionality, that caused January 6th to be what it was. Should have never gotten to what it was if there were people who did their jobs, but they allowed it to happen, just like they allowed Trump to get shot in the head. This guy's got firearms problems. He left his gun in a toilet location. He failed certifications and was placed on leave and disciplinary, verbal altercations, 30 days without pay, all sorts of stuff. And now they turn him into a hero. So he's the person who eliminated Ashley B, and there were no repercussions for that at all. In fact, he was lauded as a hero. Here's what he sounded like when he sat down with Lester Holt.
Considerable amount of time. Were you wavering?
I was taking a tactical stance. You're ultimately hoping that your commands will be complied with, and unfortunately they were not.
Did you give any commands to her before you shot?
When you fired, what could you see? Where were you aiming?
You're taught to aim for center mass. The subject was sideways, and I could not see her full motion of her hands or anything. So I guess her movement, caused the discharge to fall where it did.
And what
Her movement caused the discharge to fall where it did. It's very passive language.
did you think this individual was doing at that moment?
She was posing a threat to the United States House of Representatives.
And I think that they may have been gone by that point as well. So we'll come back on that if it's referenced here. So here's the report. They say, all right, dear Capitol Hill Chief of Police Manger says, I write to you today, it's chairman from Congress, to better understand the promotion process that you gave to this guy, because they did promote him after the fact. Says, I've got jurisdiction over safety and security of the Capitol, and I'm investigating this now. Subcommittee is responsible for ensuring we have the resources that we need. We didn't obviously have those on J6 for whatever reason. As a legislative branch entity, they say the subcommittee has direct oversight, more direct oversight with U.S. Capitol Police than with executive branch law enforcement entities. So we should be asking these questions, and we are. Nonetheless, Congress should not play a direct role in the operations and security decisions at the Capitol. However, it is appropriate for our committee to review your decisions, and we have recently become aware that the Capitol Police recently promoted Michael Byrd from lieutenant to captain. If you take out a certain number of MAGA people, they bump you up. I have concerns about this decision given Byrd's lengthy disciplinary history and the apparent political influence of internal operational decisions related to Byrd after J6. While I recognize that many of the concerning incidents related to now Captain Byrd occurred before you became the chief, Captain Byrd did receive significant favorable treatment by the Capitol Police after you became chief in 2021, after they forced Stephen Sund out. The subcommittee has learned that Captain Byrd was referred to OPR, the principal's office, Office of Professional Responsibility, in 2004 for an incident in Maryland where he discharged his service weapon at a fleeing vehicle. All right, so 2004, it's like the Bush era, remember? This guy's popping off at a vehicle. Pop, 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 pop. On April 5th, 2004, Byrd and his wife were awoken at their home by a loud banging noise coming from outside their residence. According to Byrd, he observed two vans parked outside his neighbor's house. Byrd then retrieved his U.S. Capitol Police credentials and service weapon, went outside to investigate. Okay, you see where this is going. He's like hero cop. According to Byrd, the first van accelerated toward him in an apparent attempt to hit him. Byrd claimed he shouted, "Stop!" and fired 2 rounds at the oncoming vehicle. According to the OPR investigation, Byrd's neighbor, who was also present, present, said he was in the line of fire when Bird's he's like popping off at the neighbor. He's like, what the heck? Bird claimed that after firing at the oncoming vehicle, he jumped out of the way. He's like, mission impossible. Then drove towards Bird, the second vehicle, then tried to kill him too. According to Bird, he then fired a single round into the driver's windshield and jumped out of the way. He's like Jason Bourne. Now, after this encounter, the police found both vans. These were like painters or something, right? Plumbers. Like, there's a leak, man, and conducted a search of the vehicles. Now, according to Prince George County Police, there were no bullet holes in either of the van's windshield. Police did, however, find a bullet hole near the gas cap of the second van. Police determined that the bullet entered the van from a rear angle, indicating the van was shot at from behind. It wasn't running to try to hit him, it was fleeing away. One of the investigating officers observed that based on where the bullet was found, where's the threat? Because it was on the driver's side rear quarter panel. I hope it was plumbers. OPR noted that based on the location of the shell casings and the angle that Sergeant Bard alleged he discharged his service weapon, his testimony that he fired at the vans as they attempted to hit him is inaccurate, so he lied to the cops. OPR concluded that the evidence suggests that Byrd discharged his service weapon at the vans after they passed him by. Now, despite this, the Capitol Police noted the investigation found insufficient evidence to determine that he violated their truthfulness policy. Because it's in the heat of the moment, like they always say. Hey, he didn't know. Now, at the conclusion of the investigation, the principal's office, OPR, determined that Byrd violated the Capitol Hill Police use of force policy, or use of weapons policy, by discharging his weapon in a careless and imprudent manner. You're kidding! Just like he did at the Capitol on that day when he shot and eliminated Ashley B. Specifically, OPR concluded that Byrd improperly discharged his service weapon while his neighbor was in the line of fire, and after both stolen vehicles had passed him by. OPR also noted that the Maryland state prosecutor assigned to the incident determined that Byrd used bad judgment in his actions responding to the carjacking. Inspector Yancey Garner sent a memo to Chief Terrence Gaynor concurring with OPR findings, despite both OPR and Inspector Garner concluding that Byrd violated U.S. Capitol Police policy, so he broke their policy. An appeal to the Disciplinary Board subsequently overturned their findings and ruled that he didn't violate the policy. Because they investigate themselves, they find they did nothing wrong. As a result, this incident is reflected as not sustained on his record, but it's there. Now, in 2015, so that was in 2004, 10 years go by, 2015, then Lieutenant Byrd was referred to OPR for another incident. There was a verbal altercation at a high school football game. Montgomery County Police Department assigned at least 2 officers to provide security to prevent spectators from walking onto the field and to ensure visitors remained in the stands. Now, shortly after the start of the game, Byrd approached one of the officers at this football game and asked, is there another officer stationed on the other side of the field stopping spectators from walking onto the field? Is there somebody over there? After the officer informed Byrd of his responsibility to keep people off the track, he says, yeah, there is. No, you guys can't be on the track. Byrd reportedly became argumentative with the officer, began yelling profanities at the officer, calling him a piece of crap, calling him an a-hole and a racist. Always. It's always that, yeah. You can't go on the track. Oh, why? Because you're racist? No, it's so that you don't get run over by a football player. Byrd then accused the officer of targeting the black side of the field and then jumped the fence, came onto the track, and confronted the officer. Around this time, another Maryland police officer heard Byrd yelling at his partner, and Byrd's a cop, approached Byrd, attempted to de-escalate the situation. This guy insurrected and breached the perimeter. He jumped the fence. Guess what happened when he jumped the fence? Came onto the track. No one shot him. No one shot him and took him out. They had a conversation with him and de-escalated the situation. See how that went? Even after attempting to separate from the officer, Byrd continued to scream obscenities after he broke through the barriers, jumped over the fence, and insurrected the football field. No one shot him. After Byrd calmed down, he spoke with, so see, sometimes people get riled up. Sometimes people get hot and heavy. Doesn't mean you shoot them. He spoke to the MCPD officer's partner, identified himself as a lieutenant with the Capitol Police, gave the officer his business card. Now, based on the statements received from Byrd and the 2 officers on scene, OPR determined that Byrd called one of the officers a racist a-hole and repeatedly used vulgar and abusive language. OPR found that Byrd's charge of conduct unbecoming was sustained, and he was suspended for 7 days without pay. So it's okay if he breaks through a perimeter that's meant to keep him out. He can come screaming at people, racist piece of S, you're an a-hole, and probably a lot worse. 7 days without pay, but he wasn't shot and killed, so that's good. In 2000 2019, then Lieutenant Byrd was also referred to the OPR again for leaving his loaded service weapon in a bathroom of the Capitol Visitor Center. So he's got to go take a giant and drops his gun off there. So the next little kid who's like, I can't believe I'm in Washington, D.C. He goes there, uses the bathroom, and gets his firearm. Now, at the time, then Lieutenant Byrd was the commander of the House Chamber section of the Capitol Police. He was responsible for ensuring the House Chamber was adequately patrolled. And that little kid example is a joke. What if it's somebody who wants to shoot a congressperson? Then that's a real problem. Then Lieutenant Byrd's weapon was left unattended in a public restroom for 55 minutes before some other cop discovered it. After OPR's finding that sustained the charge for violating, compliance with directives, Byrd was suspended for 33 days without pay. That's a serious one. You don't just leave your gun in the congressional bathroom. Should be a secure building. But Capitol Police records indicate that 3 additional OPR referrals against Byrd happened. 3 additional. Those are 3 we know. However, those records related to these investigations are reportedly missing. What happened to those? Now, this is disappointing as the inability to locate these documents hinders the subcommittee from fulfilling its responsibility to conduct comprehensive oversight over you people. And so in addition to your decision to promote Byrd despite his disciplinary history, and I think what they're doing is they've got somebody who is extremely malleable, right? This guy's like on the verge of losing everything. So he'll do whatever they want and they'll just keep him happy. And he'll be their fake cop who's essentially a placeholder for this story. Now, for example, they say, I've also concerns about decisions that they made after J6. For example, after J6, the Capitol Police provided Byrd with $36,000 bonus, unrestricted. After January 6th, they paid him off 36 grand as part of a retention agreement. Now, it's unclear if Byrd ever signed that agreement. The Capitol Police offered all other officers a significantly smaller retention bonus. A bulletin that was obtained by the subcommittee said that Byrd got $36K for shooting and eliminating a person, and other officers got 3. So you get paid if you take him out. It's kind of like a bounty, kind of. In June 2022, almost a year after Byrd got his retention bonus, they gave him another 8 grand. Great job. Like to keep you on here. You're doing a great job. Nobody else has been able to shoot any MAGA people, so you're like an icon. It's unclear whether Byrd also received these bonuses. Oh, that was for other officers, an additional 8. So I'm sure he got that. I mean, if they got that, I'm sure he got another 8. Capitol Police also plan to use the memorial fund to pay for Byrd's expenses, including lost overtime because missing work. The memorial fund is a fund used for officers injured or killed in the line of duty. He was not. According to internal U.S. Capitol Police documents, they planned to submit Byrd's memorial fund proposal ahead of other 90 injured officers. Why? Additionally, the Capitol Police helped Byrd set up a GoFundMe, and he also got $164K from that too. Now, they ultimately decided not to formally propose a payment to Byrd from the memorial fund because the GoFundMe got more than the fund would have given him. They also spent 21 grand on security upgrades on his home. They provided Byrd with 6 months of housing at local hotels and the distinguished visitors quarters at Joint Base Andrews. Man, he's like royalty. During this time, Byrd also had dignitary protection detail when he left the secure base. On at least one occasion, his detail escorted him to a cigar lounge where he stayed out until 1:30 a.m., which necessitated extended coverage for his detail while he's puffing cigars, reliving his glory days of shooting an unarmed woman. Additionally, Capitol Police instructed Byrd not to sit for a fitness for duty evaluation after J6. They were concerned that he may fail the fitness for duty evaluation and that if he failed, he wouldn't be permitted to carry a service weapon because he can't shoot. However, even though the Capitol Police was concerned Byrd may fail, they thought it was more important for him to have his weapon for personal protection. Now, in September of 21, Byrd attempted to personally purchase a shotgun, but he failed to pass the background check that's required by federal law. What? He subsequently sought U.S. Capitol Police's help in resolving the issue with his background check. After learning that Byrd failed his background check, the Capitol Police took steps to provide him with a Capitol Police shotgun. Oh, wait, you can't go buy your own? Why not? Here, take mine. Intended to lend him a shotgun, even if his background check did not come through. Ultimately, Byrd failed his shotgun proficiency and was not provided a U.S. Capitol Police issued shotgun. Oh, now shortly after January 6th, they placed him on administrative leave and ultimately removed him from leave at the end of June, same year. He signed a telework agreement in July 21, which allowed him to telework 5 days a week, but he did not come back to work, so he got paid to zoom into meetings. Despite this, Byrd was not disciplined. Instead, they retroactively provided Byrd with leave for the days he refused to work in July, and then they encouraged officers to donate their annual leave to Byrd in an internal bulletin. Byrd did not return to work until December 21, months after he signed the telework agreement, and nearly a year after J6, but he was never referred or disciplined for not showing up to work. And so based on the information, it appears that you guys treated Byrd more favorably than other officers. However, it's unclear why you did those things. We know, because he shot and killed a person, which was his job. This subcommittee is dedicated to ensuring that the Capitol Police has autonomy from political pressures so it can make operational and personnel decisions that are in the best interest of us. And so we've got the following questions for you people. What is the process for promoting somebody to a captain? Is there a written policy? We want to see it. What consideration is given to OPR findings when somebody is considered for captain? Are previous captain exam scores considered? Who made the decision to promote Byrd? How many candidates for captain were there when you decided to promote Byrd? Was there anybody else? Where was Byrd ranked with respect to the other candidates? What was the date of the captain's exam? Did he take it? How many candidates were promoted to captain at the same time? What were their scores relative to his? Had Byrd previously been considered for promotion before? If so, did he take the exam? How'd he do? We also want a list of all the administrative manuals and operating procedures and everything that you have, including your rules of conduct, list of charges, and your table of penalties. When you assess penalties for things, how do you do that? Do you have mitigating and aggravating factors? Do you take anything else into consideration? And what's your retention policy while we're here? What's your retention policy for these OPR records? Is it written down? We'd like a copy because you deleted other OPR records, which is troubling. And does the Capitol Police have standard operating procedure for initiating OPR investigations? And is there a standard time after an officer-involved shooting for a person to be placed on leave? We'd like to see that. Does the U.S. Capitol Police have a policy as to when the officers are required to do their fitness exams? How often do they have to do it? Is it mandatory? Did you guys assist Byrd in creating his GoFundMe account? Did he talk to members of Congress about the benefits that he received from anybody in the House or the Senate? Now, after January 6th, when was Byrd on leave? When was Byrd taken off leave? How many days did he use his leave retroactively? Why did you guys give him retroactive leave? Have you done that for other officers? When did you tell him to come back to work? When did he come back to work? Did he sign an agreement? How many days did he telework? Man, this is extensive. They want everything. And did you seek or get approval from committees before you increased his security costs? Where's your authority to give these security benefits to Byrd? Now, we want you to preserve all this information as well. Captain Michael Byrd's cell phone, email, computer, electronic device from these dates, January 1 to January 1, 24. Copies of all documents prepared by you guys on behalf of him, all dates, emails, members, dates of transmission, digital records, and more. And I sincerely appreciate your attention to this matter and request you respond in writing by December 4th. Incredible. Shout out to Barry Loudermilk, man, for assembling that monster letter to the Capitol Hill Chief of Police. It's going to them. They should be able to answer all of these questions since they were insurrected so aggressively. Why is their officer, the guy who shot and eliminated a woman, being promoted to captain when he's got a history of reckless endangerment with firearms, shooting at vans driving by him, leaving his gun in the toilet, and insurrecting football games, jumping through fences, attacking other officers who had the common decency to not shoot him? I hope there's answers to this. I'm glad that Congress is digging into it. Shout out to Barry Loudermilk from Georgia and the Subcommittee on Oversight. We hope that this pressure continues into the next Congress and that the Senate inquires as well as President Trump's new administration unseals and releases these records for everybody to see, because this is part of something deeper. This is a cover-up. They're buying his silence and protecting him and promoting him out of the American people's eyes. We're not going to let up on it so quickly. Thanks for subscribing. We'll be back here on this one.